Okay, welcome back 7-6. Sorry about that. I'm having to do some of my videos in split parts due to my daughter waking up when she shouldn't be, when she's napping. So hopefully you've had a chance to have a look through and read through, become familiar with again this extract, and found some of the linguistic devices. So personification, I've highlighted those in yellow. So we've got the voice clock. So a clock has a voice, personifies the clock, makes it seem very human, like there's another being in the house. That the house lay empty. We have a sigh, tapped, scraped, throat, digested and flushed. This bit here where they're describing the mechanisms of the house and the way that the breakfast is created and then the way that it's cleared away. The personification of the actions that this piece of technology is doing is quite interesting. So it almost makes it seem like there's a higher being, another person in the house, even when there's not, doing all of these chores and these jobs. So this gives, so in the previous part 1, where we said in dystopian fiction quite often a setting can also almost become a character that has a main effect on the protagonist, the main character. This is happening in this extract. So this house, which is the setting for this extract, is becoming a person that has an effect on the people that lived there. Yeah, and it's the use of the personified language and those actions that is enabling it to do that so vividly. I also put some repetition in purple, so the repetition of time to get up, time to get up. There's lots of references to the fact that the house is empty throughout. So if you look through, you'll see, I can't find the other one, but there's a lot more references to that. And on here, we've got a simile to describe that the eggs had turned to being like stone. So they weren't stone, but they were like stone. So because they hadn't been touched, they'd gone hard, they were lifeless, maybe lost some of their vivid colour. So those are some of the ones you could have chosen. Now what I'd like you to do is do exactly the same, read through the second extract, and look for these things. So I would like you to look for a metaphor, a 3-part list, and onomatopoeia. So see if you can find those. So now there's 2 pages to this extract. So what I would do is read through this slide, then restart the video to the next slide. Sorry, not this slide, because that's discontinued. Read through this slide, then this slide. Try and read it through twice, because we haven't read this one. So the previous extract we've become familiar with in last week's lesson. Then restart the video, and we'll see whether any that you found tally up with some of the examples that I'm going to show you. So hopefully you've done that. So let's have a look at some of the examples. So we're looking for some onomatopoeia. Now, onomatopoeia, we know, is where the word sounds like the sound that it makes. So it might be clap, smash, bang, tap. Now, there aren't many in here. One of them is knocked. So if you knock, there's some onomatopoeia. And the reasons authors use onomatopoeia is because we can relate as a reader to what these sounds sound like. So if it's a knocking, it might be constant. It's something that can't be ignored. So he doesn't want to make this staircase rattle and knock, which then will alert the aunt that he's getting out of the trailer. So we were then looking for lists of 3. So this one here in the yellow, I ducked, clambered and sidestepped. There's one. The other one is here, 4 feet wide, 4 feet high and 9 feet long. Now I've highlighted this in grey. So this isn't a list, but it's a triplet. So there's 3 short sentences next to each other. This was my refuge, then my bat cave, my fortress of solitude. So you might have chosen that one as part of your list, although it's not an official list, it is 3 things listed together. three short sentences together, which when you read it, it sounds like a list. And the metaphor, so we've got the mountain of vehicles. Now these vehicles weren't a mountain, they were probably nowhere near as big as the mountain, but the way that they were all ramshackly thrown together on this heap of just metal and intertwined cars and vehicles would have given the impression that of a mountain. Maybe it was quite imposing, impenetrable. We know that he has to really clamber through to be able to get to his little hidey hole. So by using the metaphor of the mountain of vehicles, can signify to the reader that this jumbled up wreck of old cars shares many features of a mountain, certainly to the main character of the story. So, now we're going to look at both of the extracts, and I want us to compare their settings. So if we want to do that, we need to look for similarities and differences and focus on the setting only, so don't comment on anything else other than the setting that's mentioned, and then support the ideas that we put down using quotes. Now I'd like you to start off by drawing this table into your exercise book or onto a Word document, however it is that you're completing this, with the titles of similarities and evidence and differences and evidence. Now I've already started filling this in. So for similarities, the first idea is that both present places as apocalyptic. So quote 1 from the first extract is where it repeats its sound into the emptiness. So it gives you that feeling that there's nobody there. So that quote represents that maybe a great apocalypse has happened and everyone is no longer on the planet. The second extract, Ready Player One, a ramshackled mountain of twisted metal. So that sounds like this world's disorganised and broken down and left strewn around unloved. There's not a lot of order left in that world, which again we might associate with an apocalyptic setting. Now differences. So the idea here is that the setting in one of the worlds has been destroyed by the atomic bomb, and we see that in the quote. The radioactive glow, which could be seen for miles, that's the hint at the radioactive atomic nature of the ending of this world. And extract 2 is that the world has been overwhelmed by overpopulation and climate change. So it talks about a crumbling highway, slush and frozen mud. So the crumbling highway maybe signifies that it's been used so much that it's now falling apart. Too many cars have travelled over it. It hasn't been, because of the state that the world's in, the overpopulation, maybe the falling apart of infrastructure, it hasn't been maintained. And then the link to the climate change is where it says slush and frozen mud. So that gives, again, the feeling, we know that if when the snow's melted away, you've lost that beauty of snow and you're left with this dirty, muddy slush. And, you know, it's really horrible, particularly if you're walking to school or walking to work or anything like that. That time after the snow is really quite a hard time to be out and about. Your footwear get very wet. Your feet will get cold. You might go out not in wellies or the adequate shoes because you think, well, there's no longer snow around, but actually the slush is almost more damaging because the snow is cold and frozen, the slush isn't, so it penetrates everything. So they're the images that we get for the second extract. Now I'd like you to put your idea for your next row as the use of short sentences to create tension. So we looked at some short sentences here. This van was my refuge, my bat cave, my fortress of solitude. Why does that create tension? So that would be your quote for Ready Player One of your short sentences. And then are there any that you can find that are similar in the first extract? So what short sentences are used there to build tension? And then are there any other ideas that that are different? So you might want to look at the fact that one of the settings is predominantly in a home environment, whereas the other one is very much in the outside world. And you could choose 2 quotes for that. And then if you're feeling like you want to have a go at the challenge, try and find another set where you would come up with your own similarities idea and find the corresponding quotes, and your own differences idea and find those corresponding quotes. That should probably take a good half an hour to 40 minutes. Now once you've filled in your table, with your three rows, or 2 or 3 depending if you're going to do the challenge, I want us to try and embed that information into a short paragraph. So I've had a go here at an example. So both authors present the setting as apocalyptic, and as if the world in both extracts is nearly destroyed. In the first extract, the quote repeating its sound into the emptiness suggests that the house is empty. No one is there anymore, no life, no people. While in the second extract, the quote ramshackled mountain of twisted metal suggests that nature has been destroyed and the environment is full of cold grey metal mountains. So you could argue that the natural world has been destroyed. There are no longer any beautiful actual mountains and nature, so to speak, but what's taken over is these piles of waste and unwanted materials that humans used, and that's now what we have that's surrounding us. Sorry. So to do that, I'd like you to just fill in the blanks here. So use your ideas from the table to fill in the blanks. So the author Ray Bradbury presents a house as what? What is he presenting the house of? How is he presenting the house in There Will Come Soft Rains? What quote would you use to support that, and what is it suggesting about the setting? And then do the same for the Ernest Cline Player 1 extract. Okay, presents Wade's world, the lead character's world, as full of destruction and decay. For instance, that might be one you want to use. You find a quote, that's where you could talk about the mountains of vehicles. There's plenty of other quotes that would support that. Then tell us what that suggests. So that's your final task, unless you're doing the challenge. Now, if you've chosen a dystopian novel to read alongside, which I know some of you have, this time I'd like you to first of all write another paragraph. So instead of just doing the one which has got the fill in the blanks, for want of a better term from me, create your own based on some of your ideas from the table. And if you're struggling for sentence starters or transitions, there's a list here that would help. And then your second challenge is to run alongside the dystopian project with the novel that you've chosen. I'd like you to create a storyboard. So storyboards were set last week, so you should be familiar with how to do that, and create it on the story in your chosen novel so far. So I would say no more than 6 to 8 individual frames for your storyboard. This is due Tuesday the 23rd of June. I know that's a bit less time than I would usually give you, so don't worry if it does come in a bit late, but unfortunately I've had problems trying to upload into YouTube this week, so hence it comes to you later. But I have every faith that you'll be able to get this done. This one's slightly easier, more supported group of tasks, but if it does come in late, I'm just pleased that you're doing it, so don't worry too much. Get in touch with any questions and we will be in touch soon. Take care.